Hello and welcome to the Sports Grad Podcast. My name is Ruben Williams, and with me, as always, is the infectious Ryan Walker. How are you today, Ryan?
I'm great, Rubes. How are you going?
I'm going very well. I'm excited for this episode. It's a perfect episode for you. You are the most easy to talk to person I've ever met. Every room you step into, people swarm to you, so I cannot wait to hear what you've got to say on this topic. But before we dive into the topic, we better give some love to our friends at Deakin. At Deakin, we know every single course is backed by industry experts, so you can be confident that you will get the job that you want with the degree employers want. We love their tagline, Ryan, which is progressive real-world learning. Finally, if you want to learn more about us, who we are, our background, ask us any questions about the pod or anything else, feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn. We would love to chat with you there. Now, on to today's episode. Ryan, what are we talking about?
Well, Rubes, as you mentioned at the top of the episode, I'm not sure I'm the most infectious personality that you have ever met. I'm not sure about that one, but we're talking about today how to speak to anybody. So no matter what the circumstance, no matter who it is, we're going to go through 4 ways that you can do that. And this came from episode 100, where, of course, we produced the Gospel of Grad, the 8 principles that basically formed the 100 episodes that we've done. Well over 100 now. We're edging towards that 150, by the way. But anyway, the principle that we're talking about is number 6, which was get comfortable talking to people you don't know. Opportunities exist in circles of people who trust each other, and you are welcome to join those circles. So this has 2 parts, and we'll be very open with that. Today is about how to speak to anybody and what you need to do to be able to do that. So there's countless situations in your life where you're going to have to make conversation with someone, whether that's by choice or not. Whether it's a networking night or you're at work at the water cooler, it's a social setting, it might be a date, whatever it may be. Every single time you speak to someone is an opportunity to connect with them, and you never know when that might come in handy. An example I will say about this is our good friend of the podcast, Mark Olmus, who we had on a few weeks ago. I met Mark on a plane, and that's pretty weird, don't you reckon? I must say I've met one person on a plane in my life, and I reckon Mark's it.
I don't think I've ever kept in touch with anybody I've met on a plane.
Yeah, like I to be honest, I prefer to not speak to anybody on a plane. I don't, whatever. Says how infectious I am. But that is a great example of the fact that I was able to speak to him, and we had a good chat. Spoke about people we know. We had common ground, and then we happened to be connected later on, and now we had him on the podcast. Like, what a great result. So that's one example
now you can call him up whenever you want.
Exactly. Yeah. We could have an ale anytime. It'd be easy. So I thought I'd come up with four strategies or 4 ways to help you speak to anybody. So the first one is around asking great questions. And keep in mind the great word in that, not just basic questions, but great questions. So you can have your basic questions, which everybody has, which could be, so what do you do? Yep. Okay. That's okay. But a complex question or a great question is more about not what you do, but how do you feel? So it's making the person explain how, like, the emotion of how they feel about something. So add some emotion into your questions. Also on that, if you do ask a basic question, build on that or stack that question with another question to follow up. So, and that is what builds the conversation from just a one-on-one transaction to like an actual fully fledged conversation. So you can do some preparation with that, but just think about the questions you're asking.
I used to do that when I was a student. I used to like write down a few questions and stick them in my pocket, and I wouldn't pull them out in front of the person, but I'd just like hope that I remembered them. Enough preparation meant that I could hold myself most of the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And we will come back to that in the fourth strategy, but I won't go too far ahead. So that's the first one. Make sure you're asking great questions. Second one is to find some common ground with this person. I have absolutely no doubt that we could meet anybody and there will be one thing. It might be big or small, but you'll be able to find common ground with someone out there, no matter who they are. So it might be sport. Probably will be sport because we love the sports industry. Might be sport, might be where you went to uni, where you went to school, where you live or where you have lived, what your interests are. One thing I love to throw out there sometimes is that I have taken up cycling. Like, that's so random, but a lot of people do it and sometimes it works. But the point there is
so random of you, Ryan.
Yeah, it's, why not share it? So share things about yourself, because that is what sparks different parts of conversation. Number 3, and this is one that I'm big on, especially in networking, but take the conversation away from work. Of course, you're networking there probably with an ultimate goal of getting to somewhere in your career, but making the conversation more about your personal life allows you to develop a more deeper connection with the person and not just talk about work, because let's be honest, we've probably worked all day that day and you don't want to think about it. You want to think about something else.
Totally.
So
and
take
you're
it
probably
away.
better at talking about those things than you are about what they're working on. So it's probably a more comfortable
100%.
conversation for you to have.
It's logic, to be honest. Like, play to your strengths, because
It's like low-hanging fruit.
yeah, exactly. And the second point I'll make on the conversation away from work is to don't make it about yourself. Like, ask questions of them and push it onto them, not, oh yeah, I did that too, or don't always relate everything they did back to yourself, which can be easy to do if you find someone that you have similar, traits with or experience with, but make it about them. And the last but not least is what you mentioned earlier, and it's to have just 3 base questions that you can throw out at any moment. So just have them in your head. Don't write them on a piece of paper. I'll just have them in your head.
Don't do what I did.
Yeah, don't do what he did. But at least you just know, and these are very personal to you, but make them really simple, because there could well be a situation where you get yourself into a conversation with someone, it's not quite flowing, and it's an awkward silence, and you're both sitting there with a drink, and you both have a sip at the same time, and everyone's been there. It's a bit weird. But you know that you can go back on these 3 questions in your head to get you out of that situation. You can always fall back on them. So that just comes back to preparation, to be honest.
Yeah. A good one that a former boss told me once, and he's not in the sports industry, was if you ever get stuck, just ask what projects you're working on. And so I've kind of carried that ever since. So if I'm ever talking to anybody listening to this and I ask that, I promise I care about what you're working on.
It's not just your bank question.
Yeah, it's not just a canned response. I genuinely care, but they're providing it so that you might be able to use it too.
Yeah. Well, I think that question actually is an extension to what do you do. So instead of saying what do you do, say what are you working on, because you're going to answer the what do you do in that question anyway. So
it's a bit more, you find out what you do and you dig deeper on the specifics.
And it leads to more questions. Happy days.
That's it.
So that's it. They're the 4. Ask great questions, find common ground, take the conversation away from work, and have those 3 base questions ready and raring to go.
Fantastic. That is why you light up a room, Ryan. Nicely done. Thank you for listening today, guys. If you want to chat about anything at all, then connect with us on LinkedIn, Ruben Williams, Ryan Walker. There's a link to our profiles in the show notes. You can connect with us there. And we will see you next time.